Welcome to the Garage Network podcast. Join us and the occasional special guest as we discuss everything automotive, from fixing cars as a technician, owning an automotive workshop or business, overall work-life balance, and even the occasional laugh.
Hi guys, tonight on TGN Tech Talks, we have Mike Carnamola and Jeff Taylor from the Garage Network chatting to Paul Linehan from CCA Batteries, Australia, talking about CCA batteries. G'day guys, welcome to TGN Tech Talks. We have Paul Linehan and Jeff from CCA Batteries and Jeff Taylor from the Garage Network and myself. So g'day Paul, g'day Jeff, how are you guys?
Oh, good. Good, mate, good, thank you.
Good. Here to talk about batteries today.
Sorry, Mike, I actually think, did you actually introduce yourself then, or did you forget?
Oh no, I didn't introduce myself.
Sorry, I just thought I'd throw you off the ball there.
Oh, thanks, mate. But that's okay. Anyway, Paul, how are you? We're going to talk about batteries. Let's have a
We are, yeah. Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. So today we're just going to talk about one of the common ratings on a battery, the cold crank amps, or CCA. And probably the battery industry has almost done this to itself, but the buyer, when they go in, perceive a battery with higher CCA ratings or cold crank amps as a better product or superior, or it's going to last longer, or they'll get more out of it, which really isn't the case. Obviously, we're manufacturing our product here in Australia, and we manufacture that product to suit our climate and our conditions. So cold cranking amps is measured on a scale, and it's a temperature scale, and it's the amperes that battery can deliver constantly for 30 seconds and maintaining a voltage above, I think, 7.2, but at minus 18 degrees. We don't see that in Australia.
Thank God.
No, that's it. But obviously, overseas manufacturers, they're manufacturing for a global market, and the volume of that is in the European and the North American markets, where some of those places may see that kind of temperature. But here in Australia, it's just never going to be there.
So Paul, I just trying to get my head around this. You're saying it's the length of time that a battery can maintain voltage over 7. Do you say 7 volts?
Yeah, 7.2 volts. Yeah, for a 12-volt battery.
Right. Maintain 60% of its voltage.
Yeah.
For a longer sustained period of time at minus 18 degrees.
At minus 18, yeah, for a 30-second period without.
Right. Okay. But what's 0.7 is not going to start your car, is it? I mean, 7 volts. Sorry.
It's about delivering the amperes, so the voltage is pushing the amperes through. Turn the starter motor, starts the engine, and obviously that voltage returns once the load is backed off a bit.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. I always thought higher the CCA, the better the battery.
I did. No. Big is always better, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what people think. Maybe not. You won't get any longer life out of a battery that if you've got a ZZ footprint battery and it's 780 CCAs, and you've got one next to it 900, doesn't mean the 900 one will last longer or you'll get more out of it.
Yeah,
in fact, what they do when they manufacture these batteries overseas, to get that additional cranking amps, they use thinner plates in the battery. Right. What they do then with those thinner plates, it does increase the cold crank amps, but with thinner plates and acid, early corrosion comes in and the plates will deteriorate a lot quicker. So if you go on the other end of the scale, where we use thicker plates in Australian manufacturing, for every 10 degrees in temperature that increases, the chemical reaction in the battery actually doubles the rate of corrosion. So higher temperature gives a higher electrical output as a rule of thumb, but at 18 degrees, not minus 18, it is actually giving out twice the electrical capacity and current for the same battery at minus 18. So there's quite a big scale there in how much it's outputting and what it's capable of. It's just a bit of an overkill on those products with the thinner plates in them. Does that sort of make sense?
Is there a percentage of the failure of the batteries that are made for this colder climate? Are they gonna last a year less, so to speak? Is it compared to an Australian made one?
I wouldn't put an exact figure on it, but yeah, they certainly will perish quicker in the higher temperatures we have. Obviously, the specific gravity and the acid increases.
Yeah.
The internal resistance then decreases, which then brings on early corrosion. When you've got thinner plates, they're more susceptible to corrode quicker.
That does make a lot of sense with what I'm seeing from a competitive product that they've had, and it's a known road service company that sells these batteries, and they have a very, I think all their batteries are made in Korea, but they're not wanting to do warranties, and they're not happy about it. And that the only time that we've got them in a bit of a corner, because we do a battery test and we're like, you need a new battery. And it's like, I only got a battery 6 months ago. And it's like, yeah, well, it fails on the test, or 12 months ago, and it's still under warranty. So we're like, we'll go back and have a conversation with them and show them they use the same Midtronics battery testers that we do. Show them say you've just had the car service and this is what's happened.
Yeah.
And a couple of people have had conversations where they come out and they won't replace them. They're like, no, you need to get it charged. You're not using the car right. And I'm like, well, that shouldn't have it, regardless of that, let's
made to be driven.
let's car park that for a minute. The battery's failing the battery test, right? And it says to be replaced. So I said, I think you need to have a pretty hard conversation with them. And more recently, they've actually been replacing more batteries. But I noticed that, and I always thought they weren't built they just weren't built they were just shoddy batteries. They just weren't built as well.
Just poor quality.
Yeah.
Ping pong batteries.
Well, no, it's Korean, and Korean stuff made in Korea can be quite good. We don't have to go down there.
Don't imply, don't take the words out of my mouth there.
You do sell Chinese scan tools, don't you, Jeffrey? I think that's...
sorry, I think we've lost the internet connection. I can't hear a word that Matt's saying, Paul. Can you?
No. Off topic. But yeah, I thought they were just poor quality, but that probably, now you're saying that, it probably makes a lot of sense. And we see a lot of we've got into a pretty cold snap.
Yeah.
In Sydney we've sold quite a few batteries in the last month or so. And obviously I know from history and from all of my century education that batteries die in summer and they fail in winter.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, as we're saying, the thinner plates is what they put in to create more CCA, more plates, more CCA. But during those summer months, the temperature rises, the specific gravity, the acid rises. Those plates will start to self-corrode, and then come the winter months, they fall over. That's when that just really knocks them off.
Have you guys have you pulled one, a competitor's battery apart and had a look?
Our technical team would have certainly been pulling that apart over the years and just having a look at what people are doing.
It'd be nice if we could get some pictures to compare. I mean, I'm not trying to rubbish another brand. I'm not caring if there's any branding on them, but just to see if we can share with the members, some pictures of a Century battery and then a ping pong battery.
Jeffrey, a competitor battery would be enough. We don't have to go down.
I did it. I was looking at you when I said it, mate.
No pings and pongs, okay? That's all right.
I mean, we're very fortunate at Century. Obviously, with our parent company, GSUF, so they're a global leader and they work in the OE market. We supply to the OEs here in Australia, but we manufacture those batteries in Australia because they've got an advanced, R&D network, technical teams that know this product needs to be made this way in Australia, but in northern Canada, it needs to be made a different way to suit the CCA rating for the cold climate.
That's really interesting. I noticed when I did my factory tour Jeff, you were with me. We did that factory
Yeah.
tour. There were Volvo. You had Volvo batteries that were being manufactured or being charged at the time. They were Volvo truck batteries, and that's a real switched on manufacturer would be doing that sort of thing. My question is, which plates? You guys did both. You have your aluminium, your lead extrusion. What's your machine? The rotary.
And the cast plates.
Yeah, and then you have cast plates as well, don't you?
Yeah, and the cast plates are the heavy duty thick ones that.
So and even your even the ones that are stamped out of the roll of lead, they're still thicker than the standard.
The cell those plates would be
And some of the old ones we saw some guys.
It's off them in the cell, so you're not creating that big CCA, but you're creating a better flow of sort of current and resistance and things like that.
So it's a little bit about CCAs, like how hard can you rev, and actually you guys are creating a more torquey battery.
Yeah, definitely. That's probably a good way to look at it.
That makes really good sense, that, Mike. That's the best thing you said all month, mate.
Okay.
Just
settle down, Tiger.
Couple of things I found was like your average petrol car, sort of in the summer months, you might only require 150 to 200 CCA to turn that engine over. Most batteries are far in excess of that. Winter, 250 to 350 goes up a bit. But once again, we're covered in that. But going to that major extreme is probably, if it's 3 times the CCA rating, you need to turn the engine over. You're not going to get 3 times more life. In the summer months, like I said, temperature will go up. It'll just start to play havoc with the plates over time, and then leads to an early failure.
So, Paul, I've got a question. Is there one typical manufacturer that would be like we use your listing catalog for whatever goes in the car, and it's always, when I look at you guys, you've always been, if that's what came out in the car, that's what we're putting back in. If it came out with a 400 cranking amp battery, we're going to put a 400 cranking amp battery in, if that's what's in your range. I noticed that you guys changed over the years that I've done this. I noticed you guys you've got greater CCA in a smaller package. Yeah,
that's probably more due to the type of vehicles we have on the road now as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of loads on a vehicle now when you initially crank it over, especially if everything's been left on, accessories and things like that. So you may need a little bit of extra draw in there. But we're always manufacturing, if we say the battery is right for the particular vehicle, it's within those manufacturer specifications. It's one they would specify.
Yeah, what I'm getting at, 2 things I want to highlight is I had a staff member who was making assumptions when he first started working for us. It was quite funny because our battery sales dropped off, and it was he was making an assumption. He goes, "Oh, that only needs 150 cranking amps to start, so I'll test that at 150. It's only a little Japanese motor." And he was testing the batteries on the CCA rating, and the tester was what he thought was okay enough, would be enough cranking amps to start that car. And credit to him, it was probably right. But I noticed going, geez, we're not selling many batteries. What's going on? I found out why. It's because he wasn't testing the batteries correctly. Those Midtronics testers need to know what the rated cranking capacity battery is to do its calculation, right? And listen, Tom, or Tom, who works for me, and people go, "Who's Tom that works for you?" Right? Anyone that knows me knows who Tom is. Tom won't mind me telling you that story. He was quite he was a bit embarrassed about it, and he was like, "Oh crap, I'm doing this the wrong way."
Tell Tom that it's more common than he thinks.
And you see,
failing, and they've got the wrong settings.
Yeah. Yes, so you need to be testing it the right way and under the right scale. My question really, right before was is there a particular brand that's going out there and now making, the NS60 range or the 75 or 55D range in a larger cranking capacity that's over the 640? They're going to like what? You're telling me that there's like a 55D size or a 75D size going above 640 cranking amps or 680 or 700 or
I mean, there's a few ZZ ranges are hidden in the 900s now. Really unnecessary.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But what you will find as well these days, and I don't know if you guys have ever come across it, but I know some of the starter motor and alternator manufacturers. I know one, I don't know if I should name it, Delco Remy. They'll actually put a warning in their box now when you buy the product. Some things about excessive CCAs will wreck this product and void your warranty.
From an alternator perspective or starter motor?
From starter motor, I believe, because it'll spin too fast. It'll wear
Really?
components quicker. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. If you're overdoing it, and the mechanic gets into it, so I'll put this in, but hang on, the battery, no warranty. They advise against it heavily. You can wreck other components by doing it.
Well, if you think about it, Mike, you can do certain things, have certain faults with cars, and if you've got too much noise and on starter current, it throws things like crank sensors out and stuff like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, that's a common fault.
Yeah.
That's a common fault on a Ranger, I think. And I've actually got one of those. I've got to look that up. And that's
whether 100 CCA would make that difference, but I suppose if you look at intelligent I can't get my words out. Battery management in a modern vehicle, it's crazy, isn't it? It's not like a 1979 Ford Falcon.
Well, no, it would. Of course it would, because you're going to get higher current flow, which is going to give you greater impedance and greater. You're going to get greater. Of course you are.
Yeah.
If you increase that current flow, you're going to get greater EMF around the outside of those cabling, and which is what interferes with the crank angle sensor. So they're things to watch out for. That's again.
So if I don't know, somebody in what part of town puts the incorrect battery in your car and you end up having a strange, weird fault which nobody can fix. I don't know. Best I should buy a good quality battery instead of a cheap one.
Yeah, which check those and check the manufacturer's ratings. What do they suggest for the battery? And if it suggests 500 CCA, if you've got a 600 CCA, you're probably okay. But you put an 800 or 900 in there, you're really going above the manufacturer's recommendations for that vehicle.
Well, that's interesting, because I've sold a lot of people Optimas over the years, and they're 900 cranking amp batteries. In that Optima range with those spiral wound AGM.
I mean, those guys, 4-wheel drivers and things like that, where they're running winches and all this accessory stuff on there too. So they're not doing it.
It was more about dual purposing, giving them something that had a higher cranking amp. But I never thought about it spinning a starter motor too fast, being able to provide it way too much current. And you would think that could melt cables. There's a lot of stuff that you could do with that. And that's just so getting back to that, how do I find out if we go to the Century battery finder, you're only going to list you're going to list the cranking amps or the size of battery that the manufacturer would have originally had in the car.
Yeah. I mean, there would be a tolerance. There'd be a little bit of leeway either way. It's what you call excessive. If it's, like I said, if it's right, manufacturer says 500, you put 600 in, not too bad. Says 500 and you're putting 900 in, you're doubling what they're recommending nearly.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah,
so that's insane.
Oh, good. That's really, really, really interesting. So.
Another quick one. Going back to your guy Tom testing the batteries. You don't never test a battery straight from the shelf for CCA. Because it's not fully formed.
So I could just see Mike's face dropping. Sorry, go on.
What do you mean? So if I go in there now and grab it, I'm in the workshop. If I go and grab a brand new battery off the shelf and bring it over here and put my Midtronics on it right now, it's not an accurate test. It's look, 9 out of 10 will pass, no worries. But what happens if the battery's sat there for a while? That's the specific, or the acid has sunk to the bottom a little bit, so it's the water on the top, so the plates aren't fully covered. You could shake it. If you did do that test, it may pass, it may not. Most will, but it will be pretty close to the ratings. You put that battery in a car, drive it for an hour or two, come back, park it for an hour, and then test it again. You'll find that CCA is well above what it rates on the thing anyway. It'll increase
quite a bit.
Should I go get one and do it?
Yeah, we have had people testing them from the shelf and saying these batteries are failing from the shelf, and it's, all you should really be checking is the voltage, 12.5 and above, and that's it. But yeah.
Jeff's looking at me now like,
Want to get one?
I can go get one.
I'm thinking about a live video, and we'll get half a dozen battery tests, and we'll just run across all the batteries you've got in stock.
You probably won't get one. We're very close. I'm not sure where the battery testers fail. I think it's around 30, 40% below of the battery's actual rating. But
I think it's about 30% below the rating. But I have had them where they've been at 50% of the rating, but they still pass as good. So
is that why the Midtronics has an out of vehicle test? Does it take an allowance for?
Funny.
You do the Midtronics test in vehicle. It'll ask you to do things like put the full beams on the air conditioner full blast. It's just putting loads, and it's checking the alternator at the same time, basically what's going in and what's actually coming out of the battery, that it's coping with them. That's the main difference.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can run off and get a battery. You guys can talk about something, and we'll go. And do it. I actually have found that when it's a customer that we've sold the battery to, within the last 12 months, and we do a test, and it's a Century battery. What's been nice and comforting for them is when I go, look, your battery's rated at 400 cranking amps, it's testing at 550. It's usually testing way above what it was rated at, and even if we put a battery in, we might have put a battery in, the car's come in for a service 2 or 3 days later or a week later, we've tested the battery and I've said, oh, look, your battery's fine. It's like, you bloody well should be. You put it in last week or 2 weeks ago. And then you're like, no, it's really good. Have a look at the tester. And it gives a bit of confidence that our testers are. And a battery should always test above that CCA. I always thought the CCA should be the minimum the battery should be.
That actual CCA rating is probably the lower end of the rating. It needs that for the vehicle. As you said, it'll come up once it's been in the vehicle for a while, and then it will slowly decline as natural deterioration over time, 4 or 5 years, and then you'll find 25, 30% below that rating is when it will be in trouble. But it will spend a fair chunk of its life above it. But they're designed to sort of, the manufacturer says this is what it has to be. It has to be that to here, but starting it up too high and then it goes higher again is where you're coming into your problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So put a 900 CCA battery in. We've said you put the Century in at 500, drive it around the block, test it again. It measures 650, 700. You put a 900 in, drive it around the block, come back. That could be well over 1,000 CCAs on that battery then. Yeah. So that's it's a bit of a sliding scale.
I wouldn't mind doing a bit of a science experiment on this, Mike. And that Sunday or Saturday afternoon when we have a few beers and a mess in the garage, we should maybe
mess in the
garage.
We're going to have a muffin in the garage as well.
No, but I going back to what we're talking about, back EMF and things like that. I'd just be interested to see if you whack the complete wrong battery in a car. Obviously, we won't use the Century one because we don't want to damage anything. We'll use something. But I'd just be keen to see what happens. See if we can see engine speed on cranking and things like that. Just interested.
Yeah.
Or we could just drink beer. Whatever you want to do, mate.
You could test one straight from the shelf,
then
fit it to a vehicle, drive it 5 or 6 k's around the block. Come back, leave it half an hour, and then test it again in the vehicle, and you'll see.
Oh, we'll do a little live video on that. I know we'll post it. We'll post this one underneath in the comments.
They come up higher once they're in, and then that's when they deteriorate over time, get to their rating, and then drop slightly below that, and that's when they fail.
Yeah. Well, that's actually interesting. I'm really interested about the. I mean, not that we're ever fitting anything. We're never fitting anything. You think bigger is better, but not that we're doing a lot of that. But I mean, I did the other day. I fitted a 75D when it was recommending an NS70, but it wasn't the cranking amps were 40 amps higher. I just said to the it was just an opportunity, and I didn't have the other battery in stock. It was more about what we can sell, but we're talking within 100 cranking amps. If that, it was only 50, I think, higher. But anyway, that's really interesting. Who knew
Yeah.
Could be.
Paul's the battery myth buster. Yeah, excellent.
I want to know about the. I just saw that. I can see the ghosting lounge. If you turn, there's a ghosting brown lounge that just appears behind you.
I'll be hitting that after.
Be nice and cold out in Dubbo, I'm assuming, Paul. There'd be a few batteries failing out there, wouldn't there?
We've had some -5s and 4s out here. So
-5.
we did the other morning, yeah. So it's been. I'm sure it's been knocking a few over. What you really need though is that consistent cold snap, just straight out of autumn, and a good solid 2 or 3 weeks of cold, and that'll really knock them over. Those that have been suffering all summer for a few years. So the odd day or two, you sort of fluctuate a bit, but no, a good solid 2 or 3 weeks of cold weather is normally pretty good for the battery industry.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's really interesting. I always notice the change of seasons are always the best times for us to be selling batteries. Going into summer, coming out of summer into winter, and going into out of winter into summer. They're usually those hot, cold, quite large temperature changes are when they tend to fail. So, that's great. Really interesting.
I'm up for a battery in my wife's car soon, because last time I got in and the heater was on full blast, the seats were on heating. And it's just like the drawer, and you're just hammering this thing now, and she's just pottering around town.
just pop into a warehouse and get yourself one, Paul. Treat yourself to one with a few more cold cranking amps.
Don't go too high though. That's
it. Yeah. No.
Oh, that's really interesting. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that, Paul? Or is that?
No, they're pretty much the basic points of it. I mean, like I say, it's one of those things that the industry's done it to itself.
Yeah.
First thing people look at, what's the CCA rating? But why are you looking at that first? There's other factors to consider. The thickness of the plates, like we said. How resistant is it to the heat and the climate over here? What are the effects will that be? The reserve capacity. That sort of rated at, all those sort of things should be thinking of as well. It's not just a CCA rating. I know where I am in the regional areas, you get the cockies and the farmers come in, and it's just the big CCA rating, because they're not going to put it in what it's supposed to be anyway. They're putting it in tractors and headers and grabbing the biggest battery they can, but they can actually ruin those by overdoing it as well. It's your livelihood they're doing there, and putting these big batteries in and $500,000-$600,000 bits of machinery, and seeing them parked up in the middle of a paddock because they've blown the electrics.
Well, it's not funny, really. I suppose, is it?
No, not at all.
No.
Right, then. I think. Have you any more questions or anything, Mike?
No. I found that really.
I've got some ideas. So there's a. Sorry, Paul, I'm dragging you into this now, but in the NVH kit, there's like a visual sense of. I've never played with it, so you can put a mark. We could put a mark on a starter gear and spin it over with a lower cranking amp battery and then a higher cranking amp battery, and actually see if it does spin faster. It will count the revolutions of the gear.
Oh, you mean that's the prop shaft speed sensing.
Was it a prop shaft speed sensing thing? I've never used one. Do you know what? I actually think I've got one. I've never used it. I've only used the NVH. Is
that in our NVH kit?
It may be an extra, but it was in my kit because I'm special.
Oh, you got one, because they tell you how fast your shafts.
So sorry, Paul. We're dragging you into
yes,
this
we
now,
could. That's a really.
I want to prove what you're saying. If it's really turning that starter quicker, I want to.
Yeah, Jeff is the bald mad scientist, but I'm happy to be his assistant. So
well, Mike's a bit smaller, but apparently good things happen in small packages.
It'd be good to see the result of that. How it pans out.
Yeah, you can ask Pat. He's a local for you, so it's okay. All right, Paul. Well, no, thank you, mate. Thank you for explaining that tonight. I think that's. I always thought bigger was better, and now you've given us some tests to go and have a bit of fun with. We're a 900 and a 500 cranking amp battery and see what happens. And we'll do a little video on. We'll do a little video on cranking amp.
No, but I don't believe what you're saying. But I don't know. I'm excited now, and can we uncover some faults before they happen? So
I think if we do that on a bench with some starter cable and apply some load to it, we could see what the current draw. We'll just put an amp clamp on it, and we'll look at the current draw going down that battery wire.
So hang on a minute. I know what your load is. Your load's a lump of 3B2, isn't it? With me holding it, on the starter motor, with an even amount of pressure. Yeah,
fantastic. That's all right. I'll order a new starter motor tomorrow, and we'll get it going. So that's all right.
I look forward to seeing the results.
All right. Well, thank you, Paul. Thank you to Century, and thank you, Jeff. And of course,
thank you, Paul. Always a pleasure, mate.
No worries. Great to see you.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
See you later. Bye. Bye.
Well, I think we're going to call this one a wrap. Big thank you to Paul from Century Batteries. Also, a big thank you for Century Batteries. They've always gone above and beyond anything we've needed on the Garage Network. And also, don't forget, if you're not on the Garage Network group, hop on Facebook. You're welcome to join. Any people in the automotive industry, you're more than welcome. So yet again, that's it from us. We'll catch you again next time.